JV, you recently went to what? BioWare?
Yeah,
Montreal?
I went to EA actually.
Oh.
We went to EA in San Francisco. They were putting on an event with BioWare where we got to play 3 hours of Mass Effect Andromeda.
What section? Give me the slices.
We got to play through the first hour. They actually played the opening cinematic for us.
Okay.
Oh,
And then
cool.
we played the first mission, which is like an hour long, and then they jumped us ahead to a midsection, and like midway through the game, where we had like access to most of the squad mates, and we run around the ship, and we could explore a planet and stuff.
Wow.
First thing you see in the opening cinematic, is it a planet?
No,
Starfield.
Is it the Ark?
Yes.
BioWare
Star
presents.
Destroyer.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's Starfield, and then BioWare presents.
Uh-huh.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Set in the
Do you
So
get
is
to
it-
pick
Oh.
who you played as?
What? Yeah, we pick who we play as.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But
Strider
did
to
you get
go
a
for?
sense then for how different the story changes depending on who you pick?
No. We were only allowed to pick one and play that.
Oh, so you were allowed to pick, but you were only allowed
Yeah,
to
we
pick.
were said you could play male or female.
Is there any way you can clap your way out of here?
Well, I'm just like trying to, like, this is something
Clap
that
your
people
face.
are interested in.
Right.
Here,
No.
I hear
We're
you.
about to clap JV's face.
So would you choose Sarah or Scott? Who'd you
I went
go
with Sarah.
Okay,
Yeah,
what'd you
Sarah
think of
Ryder.
that as Sarah as a character going throughout the opening? Because we saw it with Scott on the cover story trip.
I mean, I didn't see it with Scott, so I don't really have any like.
What was your
frame
impression of
comparison.
Sarah?
I like Sarah.
How is
She's
it
cool.
spelled?
Oh boy,
like
I
a
think it was with
space
the
version?
H. I think it's with the H.
So it's not like SER.
no,
like the number 4H.
No, but-
okay.
But I sat down to play it. I was kind of nervous because Mass Effect 2 is my favorite game.
Wow,
Like straight up.
That's right. Okay.
And I think my biggest fear as someone who did not care for Dragon Age Inquisition is that this would be Mass Effect Inquisition with, sort of like a bunch of fetch quests and a huge open world with gameplay that's not that great, but has, a good story.
Dragon
but
Age?
yeah,
Are you
Dragon
talking
Age. Yeah, Dragon Age Inquisition in
Are you
particular.
sure you're talking about Dragon Age?
Yes. But I actually really dug what I played.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got to get a slice of basically, what BioWare thinks Mass Effect is for fans.
Uh-huh.
And, that was pretty much 1-1. I got with like what worked with 2 and 3 in particular. I got to explore the ship. I got to go talk to various crewmates. I didn't have much time to because we only had 3 hours, but, it was like a sampling of them.
That's so weird to have a ticking clock for like, all right, I got to attach myself personally to, I guess, the driver, Solarian pilot of this ship. Let's
Can I
go.
lick your face?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
I mean, that's basically what I did. Like, I went and talked to them and I was like, let's flirt.
yeah.
Like,
Let's
that's what I did.
flirt.
And this game is horny. No, this game is horny as hell.
How horny is it?
Like, I talked to one to the Asari, PB,
yeah.
and she was like, buy me drinks later. And there's, no telling what else will spill out of my mouth. I was like, wow, all right.
Gallon of
PB,
blood.
TMI.
Yeah, it was pretty lewd, but
What's new though? Like, what new squad mates did you learn about that you didn't know about before?
there's Vetra, who's the Turian, so
Yeah.
Garrus's replacement. She's basically like stern ship mom. She's very
I'm into
cold, analytical, kind of hostile, but also clearly cares for everyone. PB, people have known about. I got to talk to Liam a bit, who's like one of the human companions, and he has a British accent, and he was a cop in a former life. That's all I know.
Oh,
Like he
Garrus
seems
style.
A Bobby?
not a Bobby, just a cop.
Mm.
He just seemed, he seemed very Caden-esque, and that he was kind of uninteresting. But I only had a slice of.
Kim's gonna smash through the wall in a second for saying
How
that.
dare you? Yeah,
You know me and my Caden.
yeah. Cora, who's the one with the hawk.
What?
The mohawk thing going on?
Okay, this is a human with a mohawk,
Or
not
the
an
Fae.
alien with a pet hawk.
No.
Big difference.
Oh, wow. I would've
She's a
preferred the
biotic.
latter.
She's kind of sassy. She's got this like Ruby Rose thing going on.
What does that mean?
That's like
a
an
person?
actress. Like a person.
Really? What,
Yeah,
Orange is
from
the
like
New
John
Black.
Wick 2 and Orange is the New Black. Television things.
Not familiar.
All right.
It shows she's kind of Jack-esque.
Yeah, she's jackass. She's sort of a
Okay.
badass with biotic powers.
Less annoying than Jack?
Less
no.
troubled.
Yeah, we'll go with
Did you
that.
jettison crew members?
No, not that I saw. There's Drack, who's like the new Krogan. He just
Yeah.
seems sort of grumpy. He's older than Rex and Grunt.
Okay.
So that's all I
Oh.
know, really. And then there's one more I saw. Jaal, who's like the new species. No, really, that's his name.
Is that how you
Jaal.
pronounce it in South?
No. Anyway,
Jal eat.
yeah, he's sort of mysterious, a resistance fighter. Didn't find out much about him. Tried to flirt with him, and he was like, "I have deep, complicated feelings about this situation, so I'm going to excuse myself from it."
So we don't know if the new species is a horny species.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know if they have sex or not.
Oh.
We don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so what?
It's complicated.
Yeah. Do you know the name of that species?
It starts with an A.
Angora.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
They've released a bunch of like those bios online.
Yeah.
videos,
Like
and I
little
watched some
snippet
of them,
bios.
and I'm like, I don't know if I like any of these characters yet. But after 3 hours, did you
Yeah,
kind of
that's-
grow attached to any of them?
That was my biggest concern sitting down. Was like, okay, I loved the characters in the first 3 Mass Effects. Like that's what makes Mass Effect for me is like just chilling with Garrus.
Yeah.
You know, shooting bottles and stuff. Like, what is going to be the biggest obstacle here is like whether or not I get attached to these characters, and within like 5 minutes or so, like just roaming around the ship talking to them, or like being on the planet and listening to the squad chatter, like that's basically mostly alleviated. Like I'm interested in these people. Like I'm not in love with them, right off the bat, but
Right.
that's to be expected. But I do want to know more about their stories.
You're in flirt with them.
Yeah, I'm in flirt
Mhm.
with them,
Okay.
exactly. I want to go on dates with them. Yeah, I don't necessarily want to have space babies with them. But,
Right.
we'll go get ramen and then watch a movie.
This was my biggest takeaway from seeing that game up there. We were in Montreal and whatnot. It's so weird to see new Mass Effect content and feel kind of distant from it. And I remember I had this with Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3, where it takes a while to get into the new swing of things, the new groove.
Mm.
So by the end of this, you felt like, okay, this is Mass Effect. This feels like home.
Oh yeah. When I walked away from it, I feel like everything that works about Mass Effect was there, and also everything that was sort of what's the word, clunky about Mass Effect, like the whole BioWare animation thing where characters express their frustrations by having like wild hand gestures that are just all over the place.
Uh-huh.
Guess what? That's still here.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Sort of weird facial animations, just sort of the stuff that's again clunky but also endearing about it. So like all the flaws, like the combat, the gunplay itself is kind of lousy, but the powers are cool and
Gunplay's lousy, really?
Yeah,
I
the gun-
thought like Mass Effect 3's
Yeah,
was
by the time
fine.
3
It's
rolled around.
it's kind of a step back from 3.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
How so?
The guns just feel like pea shooters, like the enemies, like the vet, which are basically like new versions of the collectors.
Uh-huh.
It feels like you're shooting bullet sponges, but once you get the powers,
I think
in
it's
there,
Ket, by the way.
Ket, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get the powers in there and you're like throwing enemies across the room, like there are new powers too, like you can pick an enemy up and like throw them into explosive barrels, and it's just so much fun.
Very specific biotic.
That's
All
that's
right.
the thing that I did.
Specific power.
What about the open world? Does it feel like Inquisition?
That
after
was
all
that was another concern. No, it doesn't feel like Inquisition, but my biggest concern was like if you go back and you play the original Mass Effect, which is what they're trying to go for with
Yeah.
Andromeda's exploration, is you'll find yourself on moons that are like, okay, this looks cool, but there's only like 1 or 2 things you can do here before you're done,
Yeah.
and you can just leave this planet. They felt like I only visited 1, and my main concern is like, okay, will other planets be as varied as this one? And I went to a very floral planet. There were plains. There was a lot of plant life. There were creatures that wanted to eviscerate me. There were geysers.
Okay.
It was a very beautiful planet.
Okay.
And I loved exploring it. There was plenty to do. There were collectibles and stuff, and none of the dumb collectibles and Inquisition, like collect some shards for some random reason. Like there was one that tied into memory stuff that you could pick up that might be fragments of another character's memories that I can't go into too specifically because that was part of the embargo. But there's actually like a tangible reward there besides like here's a random experience money reward you get for picking these things up. It's like
Okay.
narrative rewards.
Yeah.
So were you able to determine what planet you went to?
Like what do you mean?
Like, did you select this planet from a star map?
No. They booted us up there,
Mhm.
and that was the planet that was on the star map
Oh,
that we
okay.
could go to.
So you couldn't like lean over and see what other people were doing.
No,
and they
no,
were
no,
doing- Okay.
Yeah, no. This was, but it was a pretty big planet. Like they told us that we could spend all day roaming around it and find stuff to do. And from what I saw, I could believe that.
Huh.
But it was really fun. Like the Nomad, if you remember the Mako folks from the original game, it's super bouncy and a rubbery vehicle.
Yeah,
You could just
yeah.
like shoot across surfaces and it would bounce. Like absurdly, but the Nomad, the new vehicle, isn't like that. There are actually 2 settings for it. Where the first one is you just ride across plains and whatnot, but you can also go up mountains. You can also scale like hills and stuff by switching into the other gear.
Okay.
Like you just scale, and it's a very cool thing to do. It's just like to ride up mountains for some reason. I've really dug. There are no weapons on it, but you can run over enemies, so that's
That
pretty
is
fun.
fun.
All right.
But there were random encounters that while I was walking across the surface, like pirates would drop down from jump ships, sort of like they do in Final Fantasy. Like the enemies
weird.
like
Okay.
drop down from that ship, and then you have to fight them.
Yeah.
There were tons of enemies you come across. Like I came across a giant monster. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go kill that, and it picked me up and bit me, and then smashed me into the ground and instantly killed me.
Just bit your little toes off?
Yeah, it bit my head off.
Oh
more
my
like.
lord.
Not like literally. Like there wasn't like a geyser of blood, but he bit into my head and like threw me on the ground.
Wow. You should have thrown him into an explosive barrel.
Yeah, that would have
That
worked.
would have been the power to use.
Yeah.
What about, okay, please alleviate this concern for me, because we saw the opening hour as well, and it was super early in development, so it was pretty rough. But my big takeaway was like, I don't know if this has like a sense of majesty. Like I want to be in awe with going to a new galaxy, and I don't know if I quite got that from our demo, but I'm curious now in a more polished state. Does it deliver that?
The awe thing. That's
Like the first time you see the Citadel in Mass Effect 1, like jaw-dropping moment for me.
yeah. Actually, I talked with the producer, one of the producers, Mike Gamble, after that, and one of the things we talked about was reproducing that sense of awe.
Okay.
And personally, I did not have that sense. Like
Yeah.
outside of the intro when it starts, and you hear that they basically replay the main theme song.
Yeah, some nice synth
And like
in there.
I had
yeah.
that. I was like, okay, I'm getting into this. But as far as like seeing a new location and going like, okay, this is amazing, I did not see that. But I did not see any of the key parts, like whatever Andromeda's, I think it's called the Nexus,
Yeah.
is Andromeda's answer to the Citadel. I did not see that.
Okay.
So it could totally be that like I see that later in the final version and I feel that, but
yeah.
no, I didn't feel awe. I felt intrigue. Like
Yeah.
I came away feeling interested and really wanting to play this game. Like that is the strongest feeling I came away with, which, I think that's honestly the best I hope for, because we're talking about a game that's like probably 50 hours plus, maybe.
We don't really know.
Yeah, we don't really know, but like it was a small slice of a big game is my point.
Yeah.
So without having a more complete sense of how big this game is, I can't answer that question whether there's awe there or not.
Jeff Cork, scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you to boot up Mass Effect Andromeda and play it?
Right now, 5.
Why do you think that is?
Wow.
It just is not on my radar at all. Like I'm sure that once it's out and people in the office are talking about it more,
Yeah.
maybe my enthusiasm will. Like I enjoyed the original trilogy, but this is one for some reason it just has not been like, oh my god, a new trailer, I have to see this. I'm just kind of like, it's background noise right now for me.
Yeah, I was kind of that way with it too until I actually got to play it.
With
Like-
no offense to what you've been talking about.
Right.
Yeah,
to make that clear.
No. I'm not offended in the slightest.
You're not the background noise.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like 3 quelled my enthusiasm for the series. Not because like 3 was bad. I liked 3. It just kind of like wrapped everything up.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
like that was Mass Effect for me. Like I don't look forward to another Mass
Yeah.
Effect. Because
Yeah.
I felt like that series kind of like did what it needed to do for me.
Exactly.
Yeah, it does feel like that's another concern I have is we'll finish Andromeda and we'll be like, that was fun, but that was superfluous. That wasn't like a necessary part of the Mass Effect experience. And I talked to the producer about that during our interview. And he said, yeah, that's been one of the biggest challenges is like trying to justify this game outside of like the trilogy. Like, how do we start? Yeah, I mean, besides the money thing, like, how do we make this something that's cool and noteworthy for fans that they'll really get into and like, craft this universe outside of the trilogy.
Yeah.
Well, it seems super vague too, because they're like, it could be the beginning of a new series, right? They've said that.
They're very cagey. They're like, we don't want to lock anything down yet.
They're not saying it's another 3 games. They're not saying it's another
Right.
whatever. This could be.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
it doesn't sell or something, maybe it. You think?
I mean,
Yeah,
I asked him that question too, and he said, well, we definitely want a continuation, but as far as like, is this a continuation of this universe? Is this a continuation of these character stories? And like, how does that come about? Is it, sort of like the full-fledged story DLC thing they did for Dragon Age Inquisition? He didn't really answer that. He did say that they want a continuation of some sort for Mass Effect, like outside of Andromeda, but whether, what that means,
Yeah.
who
It's
knows?
just because more and more confusing as to what they think Mass Effect is. Like for me, I thought it was clearly Shepard's story in that universe, and now it's like, is it just like being able to bone everybody on a spaceship and go on other planets? I mean, like, is that ultimately what Mass Effect is
Well,
to
I mean,
them?
I think that like Dragon Age went through sort of the same sort of growing pains. Like, first off, okay, the first game was the Warden story. The second game was like, what's her name? Hawk?
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
Hawk story.
Yep.
Third game, the Inquisitor story. So I feel like they're sort of doing the same territory here. They're trying to figure out whose story it is.
Mhm.
Like, okay, is it Ryder's story? And then in the next game or whatever, are we going to be playing as Ryder? So, I think they're going obviously this is my interpretation. I think they're waiting to see like how people react to characters and like the writers and whatnot before they go on with their next whatever the next installment is.
Try to understand the market a little bit better if
Yeah,
they are
yeah,
going
yeah.
to shake things up a little bit more. Thank you so much for watching this excerpt from the Game Informer Show podcast. You can click right here if you want to subscribe and listen to the audio version of the full show. Full episodes air every Thursday, and they feature Game Informer editors sitting around talking about the biggest reviews, previews. We talk about exclusive impressions of Game Informer's cover stories. We have long-form developer interviews, everything that's great in gaming. So every Thursday, be sure to check it out.